if you read the internet, you would think that we were taking over the world because they see one article about gender in games, you know, a week or even a month on Kotaku or whatever website they read, and they just think, oh my God, this is too much. I've never read an article about gender in games, and I never want to think about this, la la la.
Just when you thought that Polygon was going away and that the industry was somehow starting to heal and return to normal, do we find ourselves with an article coming out of Polygon from an activist writer that is desperately trying to hijack Grand Theft Auto 6 to push her woke feminist narrative? And of course, because Rockstar is now woke, apparently, that this game is fitting her ideologies, and she will bend over backwards to make sure that this 2-minute trailer that Rockstar dropped with Grand Theft Auto 6 is somehow very fitting of a woke agenda. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. And holy crap, trying to get through this article on Polygon was a chore. I could only imagine getting inside the head of one of these activists and actually trying to understand where the hell they get their logic and their perspective, because my God, what a mess it is. Today, we're going to focus on Maddy Myers' article, the deputy games editor and longtime activist masquerading as a journalist who continues to use her position to push her ideology under the guise of criticism. And what is the deal with all of these so-called journos that have infested the entire video game industry at large? And every single time, it feels like, without fail, they're always an activist. JT. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out smashjt.com for the full article breaking down Maddy Myers from Polygon, who is a former writer for Kotaku, among many others. And yeah, the Mary Sue's in there as well, so you can imagine where this one's gonna go. In an embarrassing, yet let's be honest, unsurprising display of ideological projection, Polygon's deputy games editor, Maddy Myers, has taken it upon herself to interpret the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer as not what they are. You know, marketing for a crime-based open-world video game to have some fun in a sandbox environment. No, that's way too simple. We need to find the political messaging in this game because that's what this is all about. Well, I mean, I guess if you're an activist, that's how you live your life. In her breakdown of the second trailer, Myers doesn't just read between the lines, she scribbles over them, wildly trying to force her own narrative where nothing exists, constantly dropping red flags throughout, like capitalizing the word black, but not the word white, and many other such angles to frame and skew the entire narrative that she attempts to run with here. Her article titled, "The Grand Theft Auto 6 Trailer Makes Rockstar's Changed Politics Very Clear. Lucia is a true hero of a very different kind." And when I first read that, I was like, there's some serious red flags just in that title. It almost screams that this person themselves is a feminist. So of course I had to do some research, and what do you know?
But actually, you've done your research, I'm sure, is that a lot of women are playing these games anyway, even though they're not marketed for us. And even though they're built on these really sexist, really outdated tropes about how women should dress and how they should look, women are still enjoying the game part of it. So we'll just buy it for that and ignore these sexist tropes. But it's really a shame that they're still there.
So of course, this person enters the games industry with an agenda and perspective that she aims to target and hit with every article that she writes. These are the people that need to get out of the game industry because they are the same people destroying the very fabric of communication between the gamers and the developers. Myers goes on to claim that the background police activity in one scene is proof that Rockstar's systematic racism is a real thing. She goes on to portray the police as these racist aggressors and positions the entire game as a critique of American law enforcement and gun culture. This is based on, Yeah, a few blinks and you'll miss it shots. Hardly the foundation of sweeping socio-political claims that she's trying to make, but hey, don't let the truth get in the way of some good activism and pushing some agendas. But none of this is new for Maddy Myers. In fact, this is part of the playbook. Her resume reads like a tour of progressive propaganda mills. Get this, from the Mary Sue to Kotaku to Polygon, since 2007, she has positioned herself not as a journalist, but as the gatekeeper of what games should be. Her fixation on injecting identity politics into every piece of media she touches has defined her career. And she's also a co-host of a podcast called Triple Click that all too often, one could argue, leans into socially charged readings of video game culture alongside a slew of other mainstream media aspects. Her body of work is consistent, taking entertainment, twisting it into a lecture about gender, race, and perceived injustices. There is no fun to be found from her perspective. In fact, I would argue that this individual has probably never even played a Grand Theft Auto game. But again, none of that matters if you are in the industry to push a message instead of talk about the actual game and the contents within it.
I think people assume that mostly men play games and that women are not interested in them, and therefore it's okay that game developers and game journalists are mostly men. But that's just not true, because if you look at the numbers for who plays games, even hardcore competitive games, women are not just playing cell phone games, they're not just playing Facebook games, they're also playing Call of Duty, they're playing World of Warcraft, they're playing Halo, they're playing violent games, they're buying Grand Theft Auto.
So now she's zeroing in on Grand Theft Auto 6, a game that's not even close to being out yet, and she's somehow declaring that Rockstar's trailers are now confirming to her that they are moving the game in a good, woke direction. According to her, the game's Latina protagonist, Lucia, isn't just a character, she's the symbol of the feminist struggle. She goes so far as to try to interpret Lucia quoting bad luck landing her in prison as a sincere, sympathy-grabbing social commentary, not character development or narrative flavor. She sounds like the type of person that would be very sympathetic to the same people that would be burning Tesla dealerships or trying to vouch for that Luigi Mangione guy, because yeah, that's all these people ever end up doing, funneling into the same ideology and thought process and warped way of viewing reality. She then goes on to contrast Lucia with Jason, the male lead, and of course goes to paint him as less sympathetic, based entirely on a few out-of-context moments spliced into like a 1 or 2 minute trailer. You've got to be kidding me here, Maddy. She goes on to insist that we're supposed to root for Lucia and despise Jason. Even though this is a series built on flawless anti-heroes, she doesn't just report, she tells you how you're supposed to feel about these characters. From a trailer. Again, I can't get over this activism in video games angle. Myers isn't even analyzing the trailer. She's rewriting it in her own image. There's no evidence anywhere in trailer number 2 itself that Grand Theft Auto 6 is even a woke game. If anything, Rockstar has been known over the years for satirizing all sides, left, right, and everything in between. And sure, there have been patches that have come and removed a lot of the stuff that caused some conflicts and people wondering if Rockstar had gone woke. But until I see that personally from Grand Theft Auto 6, I'm not just gonna assume it. I'm hopeful that they go back to the way it used to be. Myers sees all of this as an opportunity to shape the public's perception early on, to lay the groundwork for a narrative that positions Rockstar as finally evolving into a feminist-friendly studio, which I gotta be honest, if you are playing video games and you're a feminist, you probably won't like Grand Theft Auto. Don't try to force the narrative of Grand Theft Auto into your ideologies, because that is the block that will not fit into the circle hole. It's clear to me what's happening here. She's trying desperately to manufacture cultural significance where none of it exists. This isn't journalism. It's straight up PR for her ideology. And I'd argue with this piece, she's hoping that by crafting a narrative that Grand Theft Auto 6 is a progressive game, one led by a Latina woman wronged by the system and fighting back, that it will drown out the game's inevitable chaos, crime, and politically incorrect satire. She wants so hard to reframe the story as a female empowerment one about social justice and about reforming toxic masculinity. And at the end of the day, It's none of that, and she's going to be severely disappointed because this is Grand Theft Auto, not Feminist Propaganda Machine 101. And I gotta be honest, the gaming community this day and age has grown wise to the grift. For so many years, it was working well, but not anymore. These activists masquerading as journalists do not speak for us. Ever. They speak at us, they scold us, they shame us, and they inject their politics to you with every pixel and line of code. And anytime we push back, they start playing victim. Sometimes they even try to sue you for daring to speak up and say, hey, I don't like how you're framing the conversation here. I take issue with that. But hey, maybe that's just me. Maddy Myers is the latest in an insanely long line of self-appointed media watchdogs who care more about a narrative control than the actual medium of gaming itself. Her take on Grand Theft Auto 6 is not just laughable, it's disingenuous. She's desperately trying to turn a chaotic, satirical sandbox game into a TED Talk. And I gotta be honest, you gotta get real here. We aren't stupid. We don't need her ideological lens to enjoy or understand a Grand Theft Auto game. And the more these so-called journalists, and I use that word extremely loosely here, try to twist the trailers into think pieces, the more obvious their agenda becomes. No one is buying their crap ideology anymore. Get the hell out of the industry. Anyways, I'm gonna leave it there. Polygon cannot end soon enough. At this point, the way that these ideology purists keep pushing their whole agenda forward, nobody wants any of it. We're sick of it, and it's great to see these media empires crumble because they hired all these activists on that do not care about gaming. If you guys want more information, check out smashjt.com for the full article. I will link it in the description below. If you guys appreciate what I'm doing, hit that join button. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing.
Isn't that the response that I get to everything I've ever written, though? I mean, what can I really do with that? Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times when I talk about any type of sexism that I've experienced in my own field or just on a con floor when I'm doing interviews or whatever, the response from guys is, that's not real, that can't possibly happen. Like, guys just don't think that it's really happening. And I hate having to talk about harassment or people talking down to me, because then that just becomes the only thing that people associate with me. They don't even talk about my work anymore. They just think of me as, oh, Maddy Myers got harassed and we're all gonna focus on that. But otherwise, people don't know that it happens. Do you know what I mean? People just don't believe that women are actually mistreated in the field, and they don't understand why there are so few women games journalists, because we do know that a lot of women play games, leaving aside the way that women are portrayed in games for the moment. We know that women are still playing games. So then why are there so few women journalists? Why are there so few women in the games industry? It's because the people who work in those industries, the men who work in those industries, are very condescending and treat women like they don't belong there.
And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. Physically.
Smash,